All right, guys, I thought I would hop in for a quick episode here and just do a quick YouTube video to explain a little bit behind my training theory. I'm going to reference an article in the description here, one that I wrote back in 2015 called Training in the Gray Zone and how to really avoid that zone 3 plateau. So for me as a coach, one of the biggest things that I talk a lot about is base training and the need for true time spent doing base training. So this could be your time that you're going out for, just your easy 3 to 4 mile runs or building that base up to 60, 70, 80 miles a week before you actually really enter a true speed development phase. Now, the reason that the Zone 2 article, the Zone 3 article got a lot of play is there's a pretty interesting theory here, and a lot of this goes back to some work that Matt Fitzgerald's done around the 80-20 principle, and that doesn't always apply. That doesn't just distinctly apply at the 5K level all the way up to the half marathon and marathon. And so the way that I look at this is that I want my athletes spending early a majority of their time in the lower aerobic zones. So that would be Zone 2. And really there, right, we're doing a lot of really great things. This is where we're developing our body's ability to utilize glycogen and be able to also utilize fat as fuel. And when we're really good at utilizing free fatty acid, that just helps, especially the longer we go. So if you want to do a half marathon, a marathon, and beyond, that Zone 2 work is especially important. Now, that Zone 3 plateau can be a really tricky area because it's that illusion of progress, right? That Zone 3 area is really where it feels like we're doing something. We're going kind of hard, feels fast, we feel good, but we're kind of sending a mixed signal to our body. I'm doing some research right now with Super Sapiens, and I'm using a continuous glucose monitor that's mounted right up here on my arm. I can't show it to you guys. I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt. But if you're following me on Instagram, you guys can go ahead and see that. And I'm learning a whole lot. And one of the big things is that what signal am I sending to my body? When we go out and run in Zone 3, we're utilizing free fatty acid for a little bit until we actually get into that Zone 3 and we lift that heart rate up. And then we move into utilizing a lot of glucose and glycogen. And then if we kind of slow back down, we're kind of going back to free fatty acid, but not quite. And we're kind of sending this mixed signal to our body. Now, granted, it's not quite that black and white, but the reality is that when we're training that Zone 3 and we're going out and hammering that day after day after day, that's when it's bad. Now, I want to be clear because I got some backlash that, well, Zone 3 isn't bad. And it's like, yeah, it's not bad. Zone 3 is usually your tempo pace, and usually you want to feel pretty relaxed. So Zone 3 is good. It feels good. I enjoy running Zone 3, quite honestly, but we don't want to run there every day. That's the big point I want to get across here, is that this isn't a place that we want to run all the time. So what I want you guys to understand is that this is also where we get into a rut, that athletes that consistently train in Zone 3 and then try to go do workouts, what you'll find is that your Zone 3 is not that far away from what you may be running your intervals at and things like that. You don't have that gap. You can't create that disparity. So the reality of what we're trying to do here, and what kind of goes back to this training principle that I'm beginning and continuing to develop, is that we need to spend a good majority of our time at our Zone 2 and then build into speed work later. And there's a lot of development and pillars of success that go along with that. But we have to have just as much of a Zone 2 time as we do that high aerobic work. There needs to be a disparity in your training. That's what I really believe in, is disparity training. That there's a large need to spend time running slow and a smaller amount of time and a larger as we get closer to our peak race of time spent under tension. Now, I usually do this through 2 workouts a week. My guys that are running, in under 245, we may see 3 workouts a week, sometimes in the form of a workout long run, not every week. So if we're going to talk now kind of how do we build up an athlete, say for a marathon, one of the areas that I really like to start is with hills, and it's basic development. This goes back to, basically creating the good pathways in our brain that we need for running and running fast. So first and foremost is that we actually need to spend time at our base pace. We actually need to go out and run easy. And then from there, we can start building in other pieces of technique. So this could be hill work. This could be fartleks. This could be strides. And then we're going to move from there into more of what I like to do is put athletes into kind of a building phase where we're kind of building more of our time under tension. This could be increasing our time doing tempos. This could be increasing our time with longer and longer track work. It kind of depends on what are we shifting towards? What are the unique demands of the race? And this is where we're able to build up our ability to manage and utilize glycogen and actually get depleted and kind of rebuild that up. And so I've always kind of built my intervals longer and longer as we get closer to the race. Workouts that I really like to do close to the race would be things like 10 by a K, a series of 1200s. I do like to use Yasso 800s occasionally as a way of just checking in. It's a good workout. It doesn't always, especially up at altitude, it's not always a great predictor of an athlete's true ability to run at the marathon. And especially if they have a lot of training, 800s may not be enough. We may need to look more at like 10 if they're under that 3 hour mark and under that 2:45 mark. So beyond that, I like to do mile reps. I like to do things like 3 by 10 minutes or even 3 by 5K in a long run, or some descending work. And it really kind of depends on where are the athlete's strengths and weaknesses and what are the unique demands of the race. So really I spend the last 6 weeks trying to get really specific with that athlete and trying to kind of nail some things down. So this could go back to, long run nutrition. This could go back to some things just as simple as, picking up a water cup throughout. So making sure that those things are really, really easy for them to do. But from a physiological standpoint, I also then, towards the last 2.5 weeks, I want to kind of manage the need for higher load and intensity, and those really long intervals. Those are confidence building, but then also the need to taper down and be sharp. And so that's where I would pick out things like maybe some 600s, some 300s, and these are going to be on shorter rest. And the reason is that we should be really snappy and really quick. These are going to be hard, but the sets aren't super huge in volume. This is what's going to allow the athlete to recover quickly, feel rested, and be able to, really just kind of advance their training and really be able to get to that race day feeling sharp, feeling snappy, but not feeling like they have that heaviness that comes with marathon training and half marathon training as they get closer to those peak weeks and things like that. So that is a really short explanation of how I look at training, how I train my half marathoners and my marathoners. If I'm feeling like it sometime, maybe I'll sit down and I can talk a little bit more about how I train milers and my 5K athletes. So I hope this was a helpful conversation. I know it's a short video, but we'll end it there and we'll see you guys soon.